Right now, though, we've got Caroline Cranshaw in here. She's our hypnotherapist, and this is a wonderful topic. I love this for a headline: how to overcome social anxiety and become magnetic.
Yay.
So, effectively, this fear of these social situations and why we feel uncomfortable, it comes down to the fear of being judged and rejected. Is it that simple?
That's what I believe it is, yeah. And I think that you can have a few bad experiences and it becomes just a conditioned response as well. If just your body kind of goes, not safe, and you freak out. But I think at the core, it really is about being the fear of being judged. And I think that it doesn't matter what you look like or what your social status is or your education or how much money you have. I think you can connect with anyone, and it's all about confidence. So, the biggest highlight for me was one time I went out with a group of friends, and this girlfriend of mine invited me out with a group of women who I'd never met before, and she points to the one woman in the group and says, watch her, she is amazing with men. And I'm like, really? Like, she was probably mid-40s, overweight, not what you call a stunner, but, she dressed well, and she had an aura of confidence about her. And anyways, throughout the night, I just kind of observed her. And every time this woman got up and went to the bar, she came back with a young, hot man who was all over her. Every single time, like 10, 15 years her junior. And I have never seen a woman pull like this. It was just, I'm like sitting there with my mouth hanging open going, I need to study her. How is she doing this? And yeah, and a male friend of mine had met up with us, and he chatted her as well. And so he's sitting there and he's looking at her, adoring. And he's probably like 30, normally dates fitness models, is like probably one of the most shallow guys with women I had met. And I'm like, what do you think of her? And he's like, oh, she's lovely. And I'm like, wow. Really? What do you see in her? And he was like, oh, well, she looked at me with this approval in her eyes. And she, commented on my style. And she said, I must be a really unique person. And he said, she just saw me. And I just felt like she saw me like I like to see myself. And he was like, she's amazing.
Oh, flattery, eh?
Yeah,
Flattery.
That's a nice things.
Yeah.
Is it just flattery?
Well, I think the thing was she was completely just comfortable in her own skin and accepted herself. And therefore, when she met other people, she gave them that acceptance as well. And I think that for me, I was just like, oh my God, I spent all this time worrying about what I look like and what people think of me and what can I say that's entertaining. And really, I should just be relaxed and focus on them, or just have general conversation.
Did you like her? Did you find her that enigmatic?
I did, but not to the same level.
Right.
Not to the same level. It was interesting. Yeah, I mean, she's lovely.
She's swooping in on all the men.
It's just a male thing.
I tell you what, it's easier said than done, though, getting to that state where you're 100% comfortable with your own self. And you've got some really practical tips here to help us get to that point. I'm really looking forward to these.
Okay, so if this sounds like a person you would love to be, if you suffer from social anxiety, if you meet people and you're like, which I reckon that's all of us at some point. I do that. You guys have seen me when guests come in the studio.
So awkward.
I'm so awkward.
Do you know, one of the tips here is it says, start a practice of self-love. I am so there with that already. Don't worry about that.
All right. I would have known that.
Yeah, we'll get you some more. Oh, God. Okay. We're going the next. It's Rachel Fladden on the hits. 7 o'clock, it is the hits of Sarah, Sam and Toni.
And we're talking to Caroline Cranshaw, and we're talking about being accepted into social situations and being magnetic. And we just heard the most amazing story about a lady who wasn't the most attractive lady, but literally became a magnet in the room. And I love this point. Approving and accepting the people you meet is the key to connection. People react to how you make them feel. But there's still that angst, there's still that anxiety around approaching someone and being rejected, Caroline.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, rejection isn't real. There's just people you connect with and there's people that you don't. And you can't do a damn thing about it, So I think it's that some people aren't going to like you. And that's the biggest thing I've learned in my life is to not worry about it. If people don't like me, that's their loss. And it says more about them than it does about me. And so I think that's one thing is don't worry about rejection. It could be something to do with it that has nothing to do with you at all. And I think that when you love yourself and you're confident, it doesn't matter if people reject you. That just bounces off you.
Yeah.
And I think that, we say things to ourselves that is so horrific. We would never say it to anyone else, and we would never let anyone say it to us. Like if we had a friend that followed us around and told us the things that we say in our minds, we would never talk to them again. They would be the most horrible person. We would hate them.
So how do we stop doing that though? Because I'm sitting here nodding, going, yes, oh my God, yes. But like, how do I stop that behavior?
Yeah, you just have to, the thing I tell people is to just start saying, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. Just start a mantra. There's a great book that I recommend all the time, and it's called Love Yourself as If Your Life Depends on It. And I think it's that, you are the only person that you're going to be with your whole life. It's your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you're ever going to have. And I think you have to have a good relationship with yourself. Be nice.
It's just so true. The most confident person I ever met was a guy called Drew. And Drew used to always walk around saying, Drew, you're the man. Drew, you're the man. Like he would actually tell himself 15 times a day that he was the man. Yeah. And
to be fair, Sam, did you think he was self-absorbed though? Because I wonder whether there's a tipping point there.
This is it.
Yes and no, because you kind of well, what are you doing? But then he was also very good at what he did. He was a performer, and it picked him up to the point that he could do things that other people couldn't because he backed himself in. So I kind of admired it.
Is there a way of doing it? Because this is what the thing is, and maybe it's the Kiwi in me that goes, well, that sounds great, but I'll turn into a dick. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah, there's a real fear of being arrogant in New Zealand. Tall poppy syndrome, never heard of it until I came to New Zealand. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think a good trick to feeling confident is kind of like what I call borrowing confidence. So imagine someone who is amazingly confident, could be someone you know, could be a movie star, and imagine stepping into their skin and how you would feel if you were that confident. And just, I used to do that trick all the time. I used to imagine Sharon Stone. That's kind of aging myself a bit. Or any kind of actress. And it was a good way of just kind of, okay, well, if I was like them, this is how I'd be.
Yeah, and you walk in there with your shoulders back, and body language is a huge part of this. And you say you can actually trick your body into feeling confident?
Yeah, your brain's kind of like a bartender, and it's making drinks depending on what you are telling yourself, how you're holding yourself. And I think, if you're standing there you're hunched over and you're looking stressed and you're telling yourself, oh my God, I'm crapping myself right now, you're going to make a really crappy drink. And you want to have, your body make good drinks. And so, before I do any kind of public speaking, anything like that, I go in the bathroom and I'm like, I'm excited. And I put my hands up, and it's very American. Forgive me. Yeah. But I think it's that, your brain will go, oh, am I excited? Okay. And I think another thing, a huge thing, is when you meet people, make sure your hands are visible. And when you talk, use your hands to, emphasize what you're saying.
Why?
Because it's hardwired into our DNA to look at people's hands. It's the first thing we look at when we look at someone. And if they have their hands in their pocket or their hands behind their back, we instantly have a distrust. It's in our DNA. The most popular TED Talks are it's the most hand gestures. That's how they actually can rate it by, the more hand gestures you use, the more viral the TED Talk will be.
That's so fascinating.
Stand
oh
up
my
straight,
gosh.
eye contact, use hands and smile.
And
it's
do you know
simple.
what the mantra is? I'm Tom Cruise and cocktail. I'm Tom Cruise and cocktail. I'm Tom Cruise and cocktail.
I love myself.
Your new Bricky Show.